Hello, everybody, and welcome to your student accommodation question and answer session. Now, I'm Charlotte Minter, and I'm your Welfare and Community Officer at the Guild of Students. And today we're joined by some very knowledgeable people from different aspects of accommodation and the Guild. So I'll just go around my screen quickly, and if you'd all like to introduce yourself. So we'll start with Catherine.
Hi everyone, I'm Catherine and I'm one of the student mentors. So as a part of the team, we are current University of Birmingham students who support other students who live in university accommodation.
Great. And then I've got Coral.
Hi, I'm Coral and I look after the hall reps. So we are a team of 15 that have put on lots of activity for you all while you're in halls, but we'll talk more about that later.
Great. Then I got Brendan.
Hi everybody, I'm Brendan. I'm one of 6 customer service managers who are responsible for providing you with supports throughout your time here with us in accommodation.
Fab. And last but not least, Tom.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Tom. I work in the accommodation office at the university, and we're responsible for housing you guys, and I suppose are the people you might have seen at open days and those sorts of things as well so far.
Great, so let's get started. I've got a nice long list of questions that hopefully you guys will have the answers for. So my first question is for student mentors. Now you gave a bit of a brief summary there, Catherine, about what the student mentors do, but would you like to go further? Who are the student mentors?
Yep, sure. So the student mentors are a team of current University of Birmingham students who support other university students who live in the university accommodation sites. So we offer peer-to-peer support, advice and guidance, usually related to student lifestyles. So like academics, finance, welfare or housing, or anything else that you might have a question about while you're here. So we've got Facebook and Instagram. So I think it's @Student Mentors if you want to contact us before you get here, or if you just want to come along and drop by whenever you do arrive.
Great, and then next on to hall reps. So who are the hall reps and what exactly do they do?
So your hall reps team are also a team of student staff. There's around 15 of them, so there's one per accommodation site that's university or partner. And we arrange a variety of fun activities and events for all students living in accommodation. And it's run by the Guild of Students in partnership with the university as well. And each accommodation site has got a dedicated hall rep as well. So they're there to represent you as well as put on some amazing activity for you too, just to make sure that you get the best out of your time living in accommodation.
Fab. So a hall reps activity for everybody. It's just for accommodation, students living in student accommodation, right?
Yeah, so it's for anybody that lives within one of our university partner accommodation sites. So within that, we've obviously got lots of undergrads, but we've also got lots of postgraduate students and international students. So it's open to any and all of those students that live within our accommodation.
Great. And then Brendan, do you just want to tell us what is the role of a customer service manager?
Yep, so your customer service manager or CSM is responsible for ensuring that you have the best possible experience in your accommodation while you're here with us. We deal with a wide range of issues, including flatmate disagreements, ongoing maintenance issues, and the other support you may require during your stay with us. Our motto is, what is important to you is important to us. So we're always here and willing to help. So get in touch if you need us.
Great. And how do people know who their CSM is?
So each village has a dedicated customer service manager. This is as follows. So Selly Oak Village has got Andy Lee. Bridges Park Village has got Lily Badger. And then due to the size of the Vale, we've got 4 dedicated customer service managers here, each responsible for different areas. So Chamberlain Aiken is Vanessa Neal. Elgar Court, Maple Bank and Shackleton is Louise Twig. Mason is Fiona Innes, and Tennis Court is myself, Brendan Creevy.
Great. And what's the best way to contact your CSM?
So we'd always advise residents to get in touch initially with your dedicated village reception. If your query then requires a customer service manager input, we will get in touch with the resident directly and we'll be able to help you as best we can. If you do feel you need to speak with your customer service manager more urgently, then please contact reception and ask them to pass your details to your customer service manager, and we'll then get in touch with you as well.
Great, thank you. Now I'm going to come back to you, Catherine. So we've got a few questions for student mentors here. So what do you do if you need help in your accommodation?
Sure. So as Brendan just said, each accommodation site will have the customer service managers, and under that there'll be some site staff there. And we're all basically trying to make sure that you as a student have the best possible experience when you go into university accommodation. So you can get in contact with any of them at their receptions, but also with the student mentors if you need any advice or help with anything. So usually we would step in if we have issues with flat meetings or with certain flatmates, or if you just got a question about like how to find your nearest catering venue for meal plan, or if you've got something broken in your flat, who to go to. And we've got a little office on the Vale as well, so you can drop by, or you can phone us, email us, or arrange a video call meeting if you have a question.
Yeah, so I suppose that kind of answers this next question we've got here, saying, what do you do if you don't get on with your flatmates? So probably the best thing to do would be to speak to your student mentors, wouldn't it?
Yeah, so I think flatmates are a tricky part of the university sort of lifestyle, because you can't really guarantee that you're going to get along with other people who you didn't know before you went to university. But they're also a really important part of the experience, because they could become your best friends at the end of the whole degree. So although flatmates are one sort of group that you might get along with, you'll also have like other people that you meet at university who may join different societies that you join, or people that you know in your course who you may become really good friends with. But if you find things difficult with your flat, then you can definitely come and talk to the student mentor team. So I mentioned briefly earlier that we can arrange flat meetings. That's basically to facilitate conversation. So if you want to discuss any particular issues, or if you just want to have a look at what the best way is to work together so that you live harmoniously. We usually do some flat agreements during welcome week as well. So you'll be invited to attend one at the very start, just to make sure that we clear up any sort of flat expectations that everyone would have.
Yeah, I think they're really useful to kind of lay some ground rules, aren't they? And someone there to facilitate that discussion is, as I say, really useful. So now, Tom, we've got a few questions here specifically about accommodation. So can you explain to us what the accommodation pass is, please?
Yeah, so some of you might have completed the accommodation pass already. It's essentially our online induction for your accommodation. So we have loads and loads of information in there about what arriving to your accommodation looks like, but then also around, I suppose, like the support, like the things that we've got Coral, Brendan and Catherine talking about here, that are in place for you to have, I suppose, have a good time whilst living in your accommodation. There's also this year a little bit more serious information in there around social distancing in accommodation, household bubbles and those sorts of things that I know you might have a lot of questions about. So yeah, you'll be asked to complete your accommodation pass before you arrive to university. And it's also something that you need to complete in order to book your arrival time slot.
Yes, we've got some COVID-specific questions here that maybe you could answer now. So the first one, will we be allowed to visit other people's accommodation, or will it have to be socially distanced?
Okay, yeah, so actually, you know, the advice around this is pretty much in line with the same experience you might have had whilst living at home anyway. So current government guidance, unless you're in an area that's currently under lockdown, I suppose, is that any two households can meet within one household. It doesn't have to be the same every single time. So you can see your mum one day and you can see a friend another day. But the important point to sort of, I suppose, mention within that is that your household is not just you, it's you and the rest of your flat. So if someone has a guest over, you can't have a guest over as well, from two different households, I suppose. So it is a little bit complicated. Our advice is to keep up to date with the news, with the current government guidance. but there's not a ban on you seeing people in your flat. Absolutely not.
Great. And then we've got a question about face covering. So will students be required to wear face coverings on campus?
In the shortest answer would be yes. However, there are sort of some more intricate rules around that. So so indoors on campus where social distancing isn't possible, so you can't keep that 2 meter space with other people, you will be asked to wear a mask on campus. When you're the exceptions to wearing a mask mostly are around whether you're outside or if you're in your own flat. Because as I said, when you're in your own flat, you're within your own household bubble.
Yeah, and then we've got a few more COVID related questions here. So what happens if, for unforeseen circumstances, a student can't come to Birmingham in September?
Yep. So if your intention is to come to Birmingham, if you've got your accommodation booked, but then for unforeseen circumstances you can't arrive, just let us know and we will refund any monies that you've paid. You won't be held liable for your accommodation for the academic year.
Great. And then finally, what changes can we expect for food and drink on campus? I don't know if that's quite COVID related, or if it is, maybe you can answer that one.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, with like all sort of realms of life, I suppose, like coronavirus has affected it. Yes, there are some changes on like to food and drink on campus. So firstly, we'll be going cashless across all of our catering outlets. Although if you're an international student, there might be extra support available within that specific thing. The other sort of main change is that there'll be click and collect options available for food across campus. Obviously, we have loads of students at the University of Birmingham, and our catering outlets in a normal time can get quite busy. But that's a facility that we're putting in place to help ease that pressure.
And then we've got another question which is similarly related to food. So if a student is in self-catered accommodation, can they join the meal plan?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're in self-catered accommodation and you'd like to be on the meal plan, just let us know and we can arrange that for you. I suppose the only thing to highlight as part of that is if you do join the meal plan, you then can't choose to remove it from your booking further down the line.
Right, great, thank you. And then we'll come over to you, Coral, in Hall Reps. We've got a few questions here. So how can you keep in touch with your Hall Reps and where can you find out about the activities they will be running?
So all of the Hall Reps will have their own email accounts as well as their own social media accounts, which you can use to keep up to date with what they're doing and keep in touch with them as well. And the best way to keep updated with Hall Reps activity and what's going on as a whole is to follow us on Facebook. And each hall has got their own official Facebook page as well, where we keep you updated with everything we've been up to and what we've got planned for you as well. And sort of another main way that you can contact us is by email, which is to hallreps@guild.birmingham.ac.uk, and we'll always try and do our best with any queries that come to us there as well.
Fab. And would you say that's the kind of best way to maybe feedback on what kind of activities you might like to see as well?
Yeah, so we say that you can always contact your Hall Rep directly with any feedback that you've got. Maybe you've got an idea for some activities you'd like to see, or you need a bit of help with something. So you can contact them in person or online, or you can contact us via email or social media. But we love to hear your feedback or anyone's feedback around what we do, because it helps us to shape what we put on and what we do across the year. But also look out for the surveys and the focus groups that we do too, because we try and like to get as much information as possible to build into our year's work.
Great. And do Hall Rep activities cost money to take part in?
In short, no, most of the time. So almost all of the activity that we put on is subsidised, that we can create as much amazing activity as possible without costing students anything. Occasionally we will charge for tickets for things like trips, but they're also really heavily subsidised too. So we try and make sure that we're always giving the best possible experience as well as great value for money as well.
Fab. Have you got any examples of some fun trips that you've done in the previous year?
We do like Thorpe Park, we'll go to Alton Towers, like for the Scarefest, we do Harry Potter Studios, Cadbury World, lots of places.
Nice, fab, thank you. And then finally, will my hall rep be able to help me if I have issues with my accommodation?
So the hall reps are also here to represent students or residents' voices whilst living in accommodation as well. So if there are any issues that they think that we'll be able to help with, just please get in touch with us. And if we can't help, or we think it's something maybe that needs to go to the mentors or the customer service managers, we'll always do our best to find the best place or the best person those queries can go to.
Great, fab. And now I'll come back to you, Catherine, if that's okay. So this question, maybe you might all be able to provide part of the answer, but we've got, what should I bring to university when I first move in? Do you have a list of essentials that you think are needed, Catherine?
Essentials, I think it's just sort of what you would see as a starter kit for when you go to universities. Things like bedding, clothes, a doorstop if you want to leave your door open and socialise with your flat. I think it's important to get some personal items in there as well, though. I know I'm someone who definitely likes familiarity and comfort, so I would bring like a few family photos. I brought a comfy duvet set and like blanket, so that if I just felt like it was too cold and I just stressed after uni, I could just snuggle under that. It's definitely just up to personal preference, but anything that makes your room feel a bit more like you, so that you're comfortable when you live in there.
Yeah, and most accommodation rooms, I think, have kind of like a pin board, don't they? Which is great. You can, quite easily put like postcards up and stuff with drawing pins. So that's also something to bear in mind. And then we've got a question here, which hopefully I'll be able to contribute to a bit as well. And it's basically asking, what other things go on at the Guild? So student mentors are affiliated with the Guild, so are hall reps. Can you give us a bit of a brief summary about the other things going on at the Guild, Catherine, if that's all right?
Yeah, sure. So there are so many things going on at the Guild. Student mentors are one of them, as well as hall reps. But there's also non-student advisors at the Guild, so they run under Guild advice, and they can help students with anything to do with, say, academics, finance, any sort of documentation. They can walk you through that as well. There's also loads of societies at the Guild, so I think it's over 300 societies again this year. It just seems to increase and there are more societies added. So they're like student groups who you can join throughout the year, and they're usually the best way to find friends as well, because they run student groups under common interests, or like topics like tea society, craft society, anything you can imagine, really. So you'll be able to get involved in loads when you get here. And then most importantly, we've got the officer team who represent you, and all the students in the university and the Guild as well. So you're one of them as like a welfare and community officer. And there are so many other different roles that the officer team come under to help students.
Yeah, I think you've summed it up perfectly. No, the Guild's a great place, and it offers loads of chances to socialising, volunteering. You can get advice on looking for jobs. And yeah, as you say, like the Guild officers are always there to represent you. You've got international officer, we've got sports officer, president, activities and employability, postgraduate, me, and education officer. So there's a wide range of people there for you to talk to. And then I think it's probably also worth saying, in non-COVID times, we have some popular student nights. So there's Fab and Fresh, which usually happens on a Saturday night, which is always good fun. And then there's usually a sports night every other week too. But yeah, that's maybe something to bear in mind for the future. And so, Fab, we'll now come back to you, Tom, if that's okay. So we've got a question here about airport collection. Will you be doing airport collection to campus?
Yeah, absolutely. So airport collections are running from the 5th to the 21st of September. And those are sort of aligned with the different arrival windows that you may or may not have seen already. So in terms of when students are arriving to their accommodation, so we're aware that we have a large number of students that might be asked by the UK government to self-isolate upon entry to the UK. If you're one of those students, you're able to arrive between the 5th and 7th of September, and we have sort of more frequent airport collections during that period of time. Similarly, we also have sort of quite frequent airport collections around what would normally be arrivals weekend, which is the weekend of the 19th and 20th of September. What we'll do is we'll put the link on the page so that you guys can see where to book your airport collection if that's something you'd like to take advantage of. The collections are from London Heathrow and Birmingham International Airport.
That's great, thank you. And then we've got a question here about time slots and how they're going to work, I suppose, for the students that aren't travelling by plane over the welcome period. Would you be able to tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So, you heard I just mentioned about different arrivals week windows for students. So what we've done this year is, rather than having a sort of condensed arrivals weekend, we've taken the decision to expand that into a sort of 2-week period, really, just so that when you arrive to your accommodation, there's not going to be loads and loads of other students there at the same time, and so that we can make sure that everyone's adhering to social distancing rules. So after you've completed your accommodation pass, you'll be able to book your time slot. If you're an international student, you'll be able to arrive between the 7th and 21st of September. If you're a home student, so if you live in the UK, you'll be asked to arrive anytime after the 14th of September. But we encourage all students to ideally be here by the 21st, because the week of the 21st is our welcome week at the university, and I think that it's definitely not a week to miss. But yes, so as I say, book online. You won't be able to arrive at the same time as another person in your flat, and there'll be a cap on the number of people that can arrive within your building per hour.
Great, fab. And then I've got one final question, which I'm going to bring back to you, Catherine. What do you think is the best thing about coming to the University of Birmingham?
Oh, that's difficult because there are so many different things that I could bring up. I think one of the best things I found about coming to the university were the number of people that I met, especially in welcome week. So one of the first weeks that I was there, it was a mix of emotions, because it's a bit daunting to be at university and not to be living with your parents, but also exciting to have that freedom and independence and the space that you do. And then on top of that, being able to meet so many different people and socialize and just get out there, you find new people who become your friends, and then they might become later on flatmates. Your course mates are then also your friends. And you just form like sometimes really nice tight groups, friendship groups. And sometimes you may find that in your second or third year. So it just depends on your own experience, but I really appreciate how many people I have now who are friends who I've met in first year. And I think that's why it's so important to make sure that you try to get involved in different things in your first few weeks of coming to university, because that's when everything's happening, and obviously that's when everyone's probably trying to get out there, and we're all in a similar boat, really.
Yeah, no, I think I definitely agree. You do meet a great array of students, I think, at Birmingham. And I think not only is there a wonderful international student community, but also kind of the geographical location of Birmingham being so central in the UK. You get people from the north, south, west, and he's like from everywhere, which I think is lovely, and is a really nice fact about the University of Birmingham. So fabulous. I think that concludes the questions. Thank you very much for being here and for answering so knowledgeably. For all those that are watching, I think I speak on behalf of everybody here in saying that we're all very excited to welcome you here in September and are looking forward to when that time comes around. So good luck in your preparations, and we'll see you all soon.